This is the representation of the kind of quality of speakers that we have here at West Hawaii Forum. And we put these monthly forums on to provide as much civic involvement and education on issues that are important to you, the community. We are one island. We are one community.
To our forum series. First of all, I'm the president of West Hawaii Forums, and tonight we have a very important forum, and I know a lot of you are here to talking about pocketbook issues important to all of us, and I think we're going to get some very good information when we see these forums. But to begin with, I just wanted to, I got to eat the microphone in order to make this work. So. Let me just say that West Hawaii Forums is basically the organization's community enterprise that was just created back in 2005. And for some reason at that point in time, the organization board at that point felt that community enterprises was a good name. We found more recently in the new board that community forums, our new name change, by the way, introducing this evening, is much more appropriate to our series and what our mission is, which is to educate our island community on issues that are important to you, your families, your neighbors, and to provide you information and information tools in which you can be more active in civic outcomes of these issues. And we changed our byline, by the way. This is the West Hawaii Forum serving West Hawaii County. We are now one island, one community, and that is what we're all about. Through our website, we are reaching out to all parts of the island, including our neighbors in Kiho, Waimea, Puna, the entire island. And we hope that by the fall, we're going to be able to actually do live streaming and not just recording and then making the series available through the website and through Noleo TV to watch at a later date for those that cannot come to Kona for the actual event. So with that, and one last point, which is before we break for summer break, which is July and August, our June 15th forum is basically Beyond Oil, Clean Energy Promise for Hawaii. Very, very important because we have a tremendous opportunity to move beyond our dependency on fossil fuel, imported fuel, costly fuel, both in a number of different ways besides pocketbook, and move into pure clean energy economy here in Hawaii. That's jobs. That's robust diversification of our economy beyond, say, the tourist industry, and it's clean energy outcome for what's good for the environment. So with that, I encourage you to come on June 15th to Beyond Oil and join us at that point in time. I want to first of all thank Troop 79 and
everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much to Troop 79. And let's give them a round of applause for great. Aloha. My name is Sherry Brackett, and I'll be moderating this forum tonight. We thank you for being here. It's all about the county budget, and we are lucky tonight to have Hawai'i County Mayor Harry Kim and some of his key cabinet members with us to talk about the budget. I also want to thank, in addition, by the way, to Troop 79, we want to thank McDonald's as they provide little snacks outside, and that's very, very nice of them to do so. The budget that we're talking about, we're really talking about two budgets. We're talking about the day-to-day operating budget. That's one budget. That's just everyday expenses. And we're also talking about the capital improvement budget. There's really two separate county budgets that we need to look at. Now, the mayor submitted his final budget to the county council on May 5th. And the county council will have their next budget hearing on June 5th. They have until just before the 20th of June to get it back to Hawai'i County Mayor Harry Kim with either approval of his budget or a revised budget. And then at that point, the mayor has until the end of the month to veto the county council's budget, to let it become law without his signature, or to sign it. So we are really very, very close to the end of the budget process now. The operating budget is the money that is spent every single day. That's what keeps the county going. And that is funded primarily by Hawai'i County property taxes. It's also funded by the county's portion of the transient accommodation tax. And that's a tax that's placed on any stay in a hotel or a home or a lodging that is less than 180 days. And the state determines how much of that transient accommodation tax comes back to the county. So it's collected, it's really out of our hands as to how much we get. The state also determines a good portion of the county budget, because it's the state that determines how much money is paid to the employees, both in salaries and benefits. So the state of Hawaii has, in a way, more control over the county budget than does the county. But at that point, it is totally up to the county mayor and the county council to figure out how much total money to spend, and therefore how much money is needed to pay for those daily expenses. The daily operating budget is also funded by some other county-controlled expense or monies, such as fuel tax or other sort of small user fees and taxes. The county does not at this time get any of the general excise tax. That's the 4% tax you pay on goods and services. Hawai'i County gets none of that. That's purely state. And I'm mentioning this because you need to understand that the source of funds here is sort of limited. Now, the county charter does require that the budget be balanced, and that means that we cannot have more expenses than we have income. So it's really a very tough job that the mayor and the finance team has to figure out how to get the money to pay for the expenses. And it's also a tough job to figure out what other expenses, in addition to those salaries and benefits, need to be spent. The daily operating budget as proposed by Mayor Kim is just over $491 million. The budget in existence today is just under $463 million. So our upcoming budget that'll start on July 1st is proposed to be an increase of around $28 million from last year to this year. Now, the capital improvement budget that I spoke of, that's money proposed to be spent generally on building and upgrading roads and parks, putting in sewer systems. The capital budget is where things come from, such as, in the last administration, the Anakeahokulole Highway, the La'aloa Malcolm Makai Extension, the new Ali'ikai Park. Things like that are in the capital improvement budget. Now, in this year's capital improvement budget, which we'll hear a little bit about, that includes items like a new police substation in Ocean View, the new South Kona police station, upgrading the Kealakahe wastewater treatment plant. So those are, big expenses. Now, how are those funded? That sometimes comes partly from money that is given to us by federal government or by state government. Sometimes as grants, sometimes as loans. but a good portion of capital improvements are funded by the county issuing general obligation bonds. Essentially, we put a bond out there, people buy it, we get money, it's borrowing money. The capital improvement budget for the budget year beginning July 1st, 2017, according to what's been submitted, is for 48 projects totaling around $174 million. And tonight, we are going to give the mayor and his team about an hour to talk about the budget, and then we'll ask them the questions you've submitted. And many of you submitted questions online, and I've got a lot of those. If you want to write them down, we welcome those questions too, and we will get in as many as we possibly can. This is being filmed tonight for rebroadcast on the Leo TV. We have Scott Ordway with us and Isaiah Heyer. Scott, Isaiah, and we thank them very much. Now let me briefly introduce you to who's on our panel tonight. Of course, Hawai'i County Mayor, and please hold your applause till we get to the end of the introductions. Hawai'i County Mayor Harry Kim, and we have on this side Collins Tomei, he's the Director of County Finance. We have Deanna Sacco, who's the Deputy Director of Finance. We have Michael Yee, who's Director of Planning. We have Frank DeMarco, Director of Public Works, roads, things like that, big projects. Charmaine Kamako, who's Director of Park and Rec, and Ryan Chong, Deputy Director of Park and Rec. So let's give them a round of applause for being with us today. Mayor Kim, I believe you wanted to go first.
Thank you very much for being here. I was telling the cabinet what the costs go just before I came here. And I was waiting in the cashier's line, and this guy passing by and said, with a not too smiley face, looked at me and said, "No new taxes." I walked away. That was my introduction to CODA this evening. On a serious note, we're here to present to you our proposed budget to the County Council. Council members, as you know, will now review and make their comments and any changes that they decide to make. From the very beginning, and I do mean from the very beginning, by the way, Sherry, I really appreciate your background on our budget.
I was trained by Deanna Sacco. Trust me.
I really do, that understanding. I don't think I've been to a forum where the moderator presents what the budget is, background, capital budget, and operational budget. So that really is very helpful for us. We took office for you in December, and almost from the very first week, we're talking about budget. On December, the final budget goes in on May. The timing is not the best. In January, we present our proposals priority to the state legislature. So you can see basically that's what we're doing for most part of the time. But from the very beginning, I was told the county is going to be short. The only inaccuracy was that when they first told me, they said about $5 million. Then the next report, $10 million. The next report, $15 million. And the final report, close to $20 million, until I didn't want to see them anymore. Now comes the difficult part of what we're going to present to you. And honestly speaking, and it's not a nice budget because obviously it increases taxes. And I don't think we'll all agree there's no one that I know in the world that want to increase taxes. And I need you to believe me when I said, from the very beginning, we were trying to minimize expenses. We needed to increase taxes at this time for Hawaii's people was going to be very, very difficult. And I did say, but it was not in that context, it was as a desperation, an appeal to the governor, an appeal to the legislatures, an appeal to the three other county mayors. How can I increase taxes to the people of Hawaii Island at this time? And I wish people understood that more, that we do know how difficult it is. I wrote this letter, but before I wrote it, I said it to the governor, I said it to the three mayors. We have a bargaining system here that's a little odd for those of you who are not familiar with it. Each county mayor has one vote on all collective bargaining proposals, and the governor has 4 votes. So all he has to do is have one of the mayors vote in his favor, and it passes. And I think that's in part what Ms. Bracken was saying of very little control. And this is what I wrote way back when, but told them in person also. I feel that I cannot support the arbitration decision at this time. It has been my stated position to the arbitration panel and other county mayors that I cannot support any raises at this time. As our costs to operate continue to rise, we have to control all of our costs, including collective bargaining unit agreements. This is not about whether the employees are deserving of the raises, but it is about whether or not we can afford to pay the raises. And I think you know that that's not an easy thing to say openly, to say it in writing to all employees, regardless of what the proposal is, whether it be 0.5% or 1%, your mayor will not support it. I think the pay raise proposal will go through. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it will. In regards to the budget we're going to present to you, I said in my mind that to project to you that we're not here to defend it. Hopefully we will be able to explain what decisions are made and how decisions are made for you to see, why we are where we are. I think if you look at the budget, for the most part, you will be, if I can use the word, pleased in the attempt to try to minimize costs. There are only 3 departments out of all the departments that I consider to have any kind of substantial raises. One of them is the police department to start to pay for the turning in of vehicles, because in the 10 years, we bought those vehicles when I was mayor last. And it's been 10 years since any one vehicle has been turned over. And we have to do that. So in the request for the budget, it appropriates $600,000 to begin that process. Another area we increased substantially, I think you saw some of the publicity in regards to the condition, in regards to the mass transit system. And we'll put in another $600,000 to begin fixing what needs to be fixed. On that, it's not going to fix much in regards to buying buses. I think some of you may know buses will cost anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million just for one, and more than $1 million. This is to begin fixing the whole operation. And as I said publicly, give us a year and we will fix it. And hopefully we will fix it where you'll be proud of the transit system. In a small part, the other department we raise, information office, because we're going to use that office to help us improve our department, including the transit system, to update how our schedules are made, etc. Beyond all of the things we've tried of cutting budgets, including fire department, including the mayor's office, we're still short in round numbers $20 million. This proposal shows that across the board, we're going to raise it 6.5%. The tax system in Hawaii Island, not Hawaii State, Hawaii Island, Hawai'i County. As far as the principles of our tax system, I am, for those of you who are not from here, I'm very proud of our system. I'm not proud of what we have to collect. That's a necessity. I'm proud of how the values determine how we determine tax rates. If there are any farmers in here, I think you would be quite pleased if you compare the tax system in regards to farmers. People who do not know the tax system says, oh my goodness, the rate to the farmers. But what they pay is based on what we assess them for the use of their farm. I'll give one example because there's several different classifications. If you have land determined to be ag by your classification of it, but it's poor ranch land, pasture land, then you'll be assessed X amount per acre. Obviously, if you use it for a higher value crop, then you get assessed a little more. But if you have the time, and I'm sure the planning department can explain it in detail to you here, or by email to answer your question. I think you'll be quite surprised how our farmers have been taken care of. In regards to the other increase of taxes that people are quite disturbed about is on the minimum tax. Truthfully, as I told the finance people, of all the taxes I have to increase, I believe that is the most fair. That is a word that we use over and over again and again. We have to present to you not just the figures, we have to present to you an understanding of why we did certain things. Not that you'll agree, but you'll understand why we did it. And if you take the time to look at it, or give us a call or meet privately if you want to, and I think you'll agree that there are sense into why we do certain things. And I'll close with that with one example in regards to, I just said how we treat farmers. I think you'll be quite surprised on that if you take some time to look at how that is done and what we charge them. But let's take the one change of the tax system we did this year. By the way, on the minimum tax, it was yours truly that raised the minimum tax the last time he was in office. It was $25 at that time. And I used my mother-in-law and father-in-law who lived in Puna, Paradise Park. I said they got no business paying $25 a year for their house. Probably had more spending money than I did. But because of where they lived, the value assessment of the house, they were paying the minimum. And I openly used them. I had a staff member that lived down there also that I use as an example that it's not fair. The word is fair on the contribution of people who live here to pay in part based on fairness on the services we provide to you. One of the things I'm very proud of Hawaii Island is in regards to focus on the values of senior citizens. You know, I have relatives in the mainland who are, just envious of the system here. In regards to a system that the older you get, more exemptions you are given. The one change we made this year, and for now, the one and only change, and hopefully we'll review the system, depending, counting on the finance people to make recommendations, because they know the system better than anybody else in areas that needs to be improved. But in regards to seniors, based on the principle that income for the seniors are more or less fixed the older you get. And government should never tax seniors out of their home based on fixed income. So you look at exemptions. Yes, I know every policy we made, there will be people who take advantage of it. And we know that. But you try to come up with a system that is, I remember way back when in civil defense, I was grumbling about people ripping off the federal government, and this guy in charge of FEMA told me, what would you prefer, Harry? That we help 95% of your citizens hurt by the disaster, or we slow down everything because 5% is ripping us off? And when you put it that way, no difference if I talk about welfare, social services. We all know there are people that take advantage of the system. And those who implement the system, they know it better than we do. But it's based on the same principle. You have to accept that if you want to help people. I hope this budget and what we do and how we do it meets with your understanding at least. I will close here on this. It was not an easy budget because we knew this one fact. No matter what we did, we're going to have to increase your taxes. I'll give you examples. We were short in round numbers $20 million. Believe it or not, out of that, $10 million added to our budget was because of the employment retirement system contribution of adding to it. On the pay raise that you heard me read that I won't approve it, that alone was $8 million. When you add the odd dollars, both of them comes to $18 million of a $20 million shortage. So you can see that the increase on the departments, except for the ones I identify, which I really believe are good for the community and important to the community, are very, very carefully considered on where we're going to increase the budget, where we're going to cut their budget. Because the ultimate end is whatever decision we make, you that's sitting out there, will have to pay increase in property tax. I hope you understand it at 6.5%, which the council will review, is an opinion we made. We're in a lot of decisions of this or that. It all came back to what is the most fairest in regards to the tax increase. And I think more than once, Ms. Sako on my left said to me and to the group, I believe this is the most fair. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd also like to remind the mayor's team at 5 minutes after 7, we're going to the audience questions. So divide your time accordingly among yourselves. Now, Mayor, I believe you wanted Michael Yee to go next? Okay, Mr. Yee, Planning Director.
So I get to start here. I kind of feel like I'm the warm-up act, and everybody wants the punchline. But I do have to kind of, I figure the mayor wanted me to go first because, without planning, we're always going to be reactive. And so I know you folks want to get to the down and dirty part, and we'll get to there. But I want to talk a little bit about planning. Without planning, we can do some proactive things. Some of the items you heard earlier that will get funded this year, capital improvement projects, those don't come out of the blue. Those come via, a lot of them via planning, from general plan, from other ideas. So planning does affect how we go about doing things. And so before we get to the down and dirty, I'm going to cover some of the things we do in planning. Two major things we do in planning. One is, you know us for permitting. You want to do something on your piece of land, you're going to come to us and ask if it's okay. That's the regulatory side. The other side of it is the long-range planning. We do general plans. We do community development plans, action committees, try to implement those. That's what we call the long-range planning side of us. Via those two things, the best way to go about it to ensure we have a great process is to really work with the public, to really ensure we have participation from community. And so I wanted to just highlight that. Right now, the general plan is currently being updated. We plan to finish hopefully by the early part of 2018. And so I'm trying to get through this quickly so there's time for the other folks. So we're right now in the process of updating the general plan. We've been doing it since last year. You could see in the red there, that's where we're at. We've been working with community, having community meetings. We are now reconciling those very efforts with which will result in the first round of draft objectives, policies, and actions. We've been going out this last couple of weeks and still have more community development plan action committee meetings where we're going out to them and various agencies to confirm where we've kind of landed with our work. And I think this is the important part in the process here. As we reach out to community, there are things that you could, there are many aspects you can talk about the general plan and give input. In this diagram here, you can see where community kind of overlaps with county issues or state and federal. But it lands in the middle with general plan, everybody coming together to come up with a plan for the island. As we move forth with talking to communities, here are just some areas of leadership. This is a lot. This is not where county can play a lead in how we try to shape these topics. And I just wanted to be able to kind of highlight these things where this is the input we want to seek from folks. But when I sit there and say we want to seek the input from folks, it's not so easy. We generally have systems here that are very hierarchical, where it's top down. but that's not very representative over the entire communities as we talk. You know, right now, we have a meeting at 6 o'clock in an evening. You know, there's a whole demographic we miss here. What about the working families? What about moms sitting at home with their children? We don't get their input. And so it's really imperative that we reach out to community to work with them on their networks and really being able to get feedback into what will make the best general plan. And by bringing in more folks, by having more consensus, we will end up with a general plan. So over the next few months, you're going to see a big outreach from the planning department to involve folks in the general plan update. So that's planning in a nutshell for now, what's going on.
Thank you so much, Mr. Michael Yee. And next up on the agenda is Charmaine Kamaka. She's the Director of Park Education. And again, our focus tonight is the county budget 2017 to 2018, and we hope that that's what we're going to be talking about.
First of all, our vision is to service is our game, satisfaction is our aim, and our mission is to provide a wide array of services for the public with excellence, integrity, and aloha. The department provides recreational and cultural programs while operating and maintaining over 200 sites throughout the county and including many larger regional community centers, ball fields, soccer fields, gyms, tennis courts, swimming pools, and rodeo arenas. Special purpose facilities include a drag strip, skeet range, equestrian center, rainforest zoo, golf course, veteran cemeteries, and other community cemeteries. PNR manages and maintains over 200 facilities and over 4,000 acres island-wide. We also assist with public access, open natural resources preservation land, and that's over 4,000 acres as well. One of the largest departments in the county, we employ more than 500 employees with an additional 80 employees in the summer months for summer fun and learn to swim programs. Our 2017-18 operating budget is about $27 million, approximately 1% more than the current fiscal year. The deputy, Ryan Chong, and director, we had pictures up there, but they were ugly.
That's okay, we see what you look like, we don't need your pictures.
Divisions and sections of the department, we have an administrative section, we have a culture and education section, which includes the county bands in both East and West Hawaii. We have a municipal golf course. We have an elderly activities division. We have a maintenance division. And our maintenance division oversees the cemeteries. We have the recreation division, which includes the Honolulu Complex and 9 island-wide swimming pools. And we have the Panaeva Rainforest Zoo and Equestrian Center. Our priorities are to have safe, clean, well-maintained fields and facilities, quality programs and activities, and we want to employ a happy, healthy staff that's motivated and fully engaged in the department's mission, which again is to provide a wide array of services for the public with excellence, integrity, and aloha. Departmental priorities include ADA compliance, repair and maintenance, hazmat identification and remediation. And to that end, this year the department will be doing island-wide facility audits and inventory to determine the condition of our facilities and to prioritize a repair and maintenance schedule. I limited the projects around the island to those in West Hawaii, so I'm going to talk about the projects that we've completed here. We have the Honaunau Rodeo Arena, which we completed. We have the Kailua soccer field lighting improvements, the ball field lighting improvements, the Kailua Park canoe holly, and ongoing projects in West Hawaii include the Kailua tennis courts, Kailua Park tennis courts, Konawaina Pool solar roofing repairs, And with the roofing repairs, we also have, we're installing a variable frequency drive pump to reduce energy costs, and we're doing that at a lot of the pools around the island. Our CIP projects include the Kealikehe Regional Park, the new La'aloa Park Development and YMCA Park, and La'aloa Beach Park improvements. West Hawaii ADA projects upcoming are the Magic Sands Beach Park and the Miloli'i Beach Park. P&R programs in West Hawaii right now, we have recreation programs, youth programs at Halehalavai, Yano Hall, Kailua Gym. We have summer fun programs at Kailua Gym and Yano Hall, the Learn to Swim program at Konawaina Pool, and potentially at KCAC, depending on lifeguard availability. We have elderly activity programs.
KCAC?
The Kailua Swimming Pool.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not the only one who didn't know what KCAC is, so.
Oh, okay. It's the Kona Community Aquatic Center. Kailua?
Thank you.
Kailua. Elderly activity programs in Kona include a senior club and nutrition site at Imin Center, a senior club at Halehalavai, a nutrition site at Hualalai Elderly, a nutrition site at Captain Cook Housing, a senior club at Yano Hall, a senior club at the Painted Church, and EAD also provides chore service and transportation to seniors. We also have retired senior volunteer programs in West Hawaii and our senior training and employment program. So that's what Parks does. And if, in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. Mr. DeMarco, tell us about Public Works, and please try to focus on the upcoming budget 2017-2018. That would be good.
All right, like Harry, I also had an experience at Costco. I had somebody step up to me and said that'll be $11.54. Just so, anyway. All right, moving on. That didn't go over so well. Oh, well.
Well, it's a miracle you get out of Costco for $11.50. So that's a good sign.
All right. Actually, it was a sandwich, but anyway. So what you're seeing in front of you is the Department of Public Works. We're a little smaller in population to Parks and Rec. We have 375 employees, and the department is composed of, well, the divisions that you see there: Automotive Division, Building Division, Engineering Division, Highway Maintenance Division, and Traffic Division. So I'm bringing this forward so you can understand where your tax dollars are going. Anybody that goes to the water spigots, we're responsible for maintaining those. I don't think you have any of those on this side of the island, but in case you do, we're the folks that are responsible for. Okay. So good service, bad service, whatever service you're getting, you can thank us or blame us. That would be us. Also, we have a bridge division. There's 128 bridges on this island that we're responsible for in terms of annual inspections, and this is a federal requirement, and maintaining these. And our bridge unit works in conjunction with our highway maintenance division to make sure that these bridges are properly maintained and functioning for your use. We also have our automotive division, so they're responsible for the repair and maintenance of all county vehicles and equipment, fuel purchases, and the dispensers that are located throughout the island. Our building division, I'm sure some of you folks have probably gone for building permits. Maybe I've been a little frustrated over that. We're working to try to improve that process for you. It's taking a little more time than I had expected, but just to let you know, we are working on that effort so we can provide better service to the community and to you folks here. But also, in addition to building permits, our building division also maintains 84 facilities throughout the county, including this one you're sitting in right now. So all the janitorial services, the groundskeeping, keeping the parking lots clear, making it comfortable in here for you as far as your air conditioning, lighting, all of these are done by our building division. And this is just an example of another building that's going up on the Hilo side. This is the High Street Fire Station. So engineering division, these are the folks that do the design, construction, inspection of county facilities, so the roads that you ride on. Code regulations and compliance. There's been some concerns about erosion and sediment control on the island. You know, big storms and you get a lot of water coming down and moving or transporting sediments. That would be engineering division that will go out and inspect and, as appropriate, you know, take action to try to correct whatever deficiency exists that's causing that problem. Our flood control program, I used to be the floodplain manager for the county at one point. But anyway, that has to do with FEMA flood maps. So you're probably maybe familiar with some of the new mapping that's be coming out here, the digital flood insurance rate maps from FEMA. It'll be coming out in August, and there'll be some public meetings both on this side and the other side of the island to introduce those maps to you. You can actually see them now if you're interested. You go to the Department of Land and Natural Resources website and look at their flood hazard assessment tool, and you'll be able to see what those new maps will look like and how they may or may not affect you. Now, I was told this particular slide would be of particular interest to you. These are West Hawaii projects, so these are a few of our capital improvement projects. But you can, let's see, this laser is going to work. Not from here. Anyway, Lee Drive Shoulder Improvement Project, that's a $0.8 million project, and that is going to bid opening today. There's the Ali'i Drive Culvert Replacement Project, that's an $11 million project. The Anakay Highway Phase 3, $40 million project. Henry Street Reconstruction from Palani to Queen K Highway, $4 million project. Kuakini Highway widening south of Halualai Road, $50 million project. Laco Street extension, that's part of a subdivision, so that's privately funded. Mamaloa Highway widening from Mud Lane to Mana Road. Nani Kailua extension, that's a $4 million project. And just a few East Hawaii projects. Kalanaʻaole Avenue, that also went out to bid opening today, $12 million project. Wainui Ave roadway reconstruction. And again, another Wainui safety improvement project, $12.5 million. Just wanted to introduce our highway division. These folks are the ones that go out and repair your roads. There's 970 miles of roads, and they're out there filling in potholes and repairing the surfaces, repaving them. They're doing sidewalks, guardrails, grass cutting, tree trimming. There's over 2,100 dry wells on this island that they have to keep clean. So we have a vacuum truck to remove that material that collects in those dry wells to keep them efficient so that we don't get ponding and flooding around our streets and within your neighborhoods. There's 408 miles of roads in limbo that we're involved with. Flood channels that they maintain, bridges I indicated earlier that we repair. We also provide training for heavy equipment and safety and emergency responses. So I think the next slides give some examples of that. These are just some of the work that our Highway Maintenance Division folks do, which I just described to you. I don't know if you've been up Waimea and seen some of the good work that our highways crews have done along Mamaloa Highway up there. That's our paver that you're seeing there and our crews that are doing that work. I think they did a good job. So again, just an example of the kinds of work they do. They do sidewalk repairs. There's an example there. Waikoloa Village sidewalk. Guardrails maintenance. You can see the crews out there working on the guardrails. Just an example of road maintenance, in this case grass trimming. And here they're doing drainage ways and culverts. Try to improve the drainage so they don't flood the roads. And this is down in Waipio Valley where they're putting in a culvert to alleviate some flooding conditions you can see on the slide there. And here's an example of emergency response. In this case, it was a 2015 flood that wiped out the shoulder and Kona, and here they're repairing the shoulder there.
This was on Kuakini Highway.
Yes, I believe so, yes.
You said Kona, I just wanted to
Okay, yes, thank you for
narrow
that
it down
clarification. Yeah.
A smaller
geographic area.
So again, this is just our highway maintenance folks assisting in an emergency, in this case fire suppression. Okay, I'd like to talk about our traffic division right now. the work that they do. It's involved with installation, operation, and maintenance of all streetlights, traffic signals, traffic signs, markings, and other traffic control devices. They do traffic safety and education at our schools and within our communities. You can see our crews out there working on some signals. And, it makes reference to this driver feedback signaling. I don't know if you drive down the road, you go a little too fast, it's going to have the posted speed limit, and it's going to flash at you until you're going too fast. You either try to get it so it's just right, so it stays solid, and Speed humps is another activity that our traffic division is involved with, and that seems to be of interest all over the island. So here's our crews putting in the speed humps. And a lot of work was put in by our traffic division in terms of improving our lighting. So in this case, they've converted over about 12,000 low-pressure sodium lights with light-emitting diode lights, or LED lights. And you can see some examples of those in those photographs. That orange glare light that you see, that would be in the upper left corner, is the low-pressure sodium light versus the LED light, which is in the foreground of that. It makes a big difference. When that road's wet, it makes it much easier to see the road with the LED lights. In addition to that, we're saving millions of dollars in electrical costs by converting over. So quite a cost savings to the community. So that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeMarco. While Bill is getting the next set of slides ready, we'll go to an audience question that Mr. DeMarco relates to you. You showed on your list that Anikeahokulole Highway Extension, I presume you're talking about from Hinalani to Ka'imanani, was on there. However, in looking at the actual capital budget for 2017-2018, I do not see that listed. So we've had a couple questions about when it's going to happen. When will that happen? Please.
We're talking about the Anike Phase 3?
We're talking about the Anikeahokulole Highway, which I don't know if it's Phase 3, but I'm talking about the extension from Hinalani to Ka'imanani.
Yes, the notice to proceed on our capital improvement, I believe it is on the CIP list, but I'll have to go back and check. But
it is good. Just want to know, what's your timing?
Yeah, the notice to proceed, we're scheduled for December of 2020.
So that would be why, Deanna, am I wrong? Is it here and I just don't see it?
No, it's not there, but
Oh, I misspoke, sorry.
3 years of capital budgets that are good all at the same time. So they do have a project on the books that's current for the planning of this project.
Okay, so what you're saying is we can expect to see the extension of Anikeahokulole Highway when exactly?
Well, currently it's scheduled for 2020.
You said the notice to proceed is December 2020?
December 2020.
So does that mean notice to proceed and then they build it?
That's notice to proceed to construct.
Right, so when would you expect it to open?
Oh, well, shoot.
A year?
How about an easier question? Why is it being put back so far when the first phase went so swimmingly?
Well, I mean, the needs all over the island. I mean, you've got to pick your priorities, and, there were others that had higher priorities. So, I mean, that's the reason for that.
Okay, not high priority, we understand that. When you do the extension, will that include the extension of the Queens Lay to Palamanui College?
Well, I mean, to say that it's not a high priority, it's a priority, but there are other priorities ahead of it.
Okay, so will it include the extension of the Queens Lay, which I believe is a bike?
It's a shared use path.
Shared use path is the proper terminology. Bike and shared use path. Will it include that in the Phase 3?
Let me get back to you on that. You provide the question. I believe this is going to be a complete street, but don't hold me to that. Yeah.
Sherry, can I answer you? Your question on the first phase went so fast?
Well, I said it went swimmingly.
Yeah.
It did. And that's really not the issue. The issue is just when the next part, because a lot of questions came in about that.
Yeah,
so we don't need to go back in time.
I think it's important that I answer it. in regards to why it went so swimmingly, because a good part of it was to the credit of the Community Development Plan, in short, the people of Kona, who persuaded the powers in be, especially the state, in regards to that this is your Kona people priority as far as Connector Road. And the reason it went so smoothly after that was done, and support obviously by everyone, because it was a community plan, a development plan, which is the Kona people that identified it as number one. Number two, as you know, it was paid for by the stimulus funds. And the state government, who got approximately only $84 million for the state, to the support of all, including the governor especially, $34 or $33 million of the $84 million to the state was given to the Kona. And a lot of it, I think, was admitted because of two things. Number one, that highway was ready to go. That was a requirement of the stimulus funds, that it be shovel ready, as they said. And it was. All the planning and EIS were completed. But the most important thing, I think, in hindsight, is you, the community, put the pressure on to have it done.
I'd like to also give a shout out and thank you to Senator Daniel Keanoe for providing the funding, because seriously, as you know, Mayor Kim, without him, there wouldn't have been that. So next up, I believe, is Collins Tomei and Deanna Sacco.
Thank you for coming this evening. My name is Collins Tomei, the Director of Finance, and I have a slide presentation for you. This is for the fiscal year 2017 budget. Okay, here we go. So the proposed budget for fiscal year 2017-18 includes $491.2 million. The funding is this includes funding for police services, fire services, highway and streets, parks, community facilities, solid waste, sewer, mass transit, housing and community development. The next slide shows a pie chart, and the five largest of this pie chart basically includes public safety. Police services, about $65.5 million. Fire services, $47.2 million. Highway and public works, $45.5. Environmental management, $47.6, and parks and recreation, $26.5 million. What does the county do for you? 21 fire stations, 18 police stations and substations, maintenance of 956 miles of streets and 10,655 streetlights, 147 parks, 62 gyms and recreation centers, 9 swimming pools, 11 cemeteries, lifeguard services for 12 beaches, assistance to 1,850 persons, families with housing rental assistance program last year. Revenue sources: general fund, real property taxes, transit accommodation taxes, grants, licenses and permits, charges for services like bus fares, facility rental, other interests and dividends, then other revenue sources: highway fund, fuel taxes, public utilities, franchise taxes, sewer fund, sewer fees, solid waste fund, tipping fees, housing funds, basically by grants, golf course fund, green fees, concession fees.
Collins,
yes.
just to go back a bit, you did
Not mention one thing on there that was on the chart, which was fund balance. Is that just monies left over from last year?
Basically, yes.
Great. I
Yeah.
just
Sorry
wanted-
about that. Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay. Thank you. I gotta say, Sherry is sharp. Yeah, and then she actually did a real good job in the presentation before. So, kudos to Deanna. But thank you very much. Anyway, so transit accommodation taxes. I'm going to spend just only a little bit of time going over this. But as you can see on this graph, over the years, the tax that has been collected by the state of Hawaii has increased dramatically. But when you look at that little portion on the top of that graph, that's the County of Hawaii's share. We receive a very small portion. Now, and if you see that line on the bottom, that's the percentage that we're receiving. It's tied to the numbers on the right, and it's at the end, it's about 5%. Okay? I want to bring up two bills. As citizens, I want you to pay close attention to anything that has to do with transit accommodation taxes. Please.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know that you're going to talk about how badly we've been treated by the state. But
I'm just wanting to ask you, given that we are now at 5 after 7, is it relevant to talk about what could have been or should have been? Or should we just ask people to read more about it on the county website? Only because we can't change what the state has done.
Yes, we cannot change it, but I think we need to be vigilant from this point on. And the point I want to make is two bills. One is Senate Bill 1290, and that requested that we get 45%. 45%. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. Then there's a House Bill, 1586, and that actually had calibrated reductions in the transit accommodation tax portions that we would get.
I tried.
At one point, it would reduce it by $30 million. Substantial. So, you know, we talk about maybe $1.8 million not receiving that in this last year. And we got to raise taxes. If that bill had passed, and maybe in a few more years, we would have seen a $30 million reduction going to the counties now, but still a substantial reduction. All I'm asking is that from this point on, in terms of transit accommodation taxes, be very aware. Look at the bills that are put forth by your representatives and your senators. So continuing on, fiscal year 17-18 expenditures. We were faced with mandatory increases, negotiated pay raises, retirement system payments, health benefit costs, post-employment retirement costs, basically health benefits. We also service debt. Departments reduced expenditures and included only necessary increases. So we had cut in previous years, and we really got to the point where there wasn't much more to cut. Oh, sorry. So that's that. And then expenditures and reserves. One more over. Okay. Estimated revenues were less than expected. So TAT levels, yeah, there was a reduction of just about $2 million. Fund balance estimate was reduced by $6.4 million. In the end, revenues came in at $386 million, expenditures $407, and that's a shortfall of $21 million. I'd just like to turn it over to Diana Sacco at this time. She's the Deputy Director of Finance.
We did have a lot of options to balance. You know, we looked at cutting vacant positions or implementing hiring freezes. We looked at furloughing the non-public safety employees, closing transfer stations, reducing maintenance of facilities, you know, increasing fees, laying off workers. And in the end, it was a combination of all, but mostly it ended up being raising real property taxes. You know, it was a tough decision. You know, we looked at the impact that it was going to have on services and operations. You know, some areas we already have long lines and long wait times. We didn't want those to get worse. Looking at the impact on the employees and their families, the economy, and, you know, some of them even are the future costs and what the revenue potentials might be. The proposed real property tax rate increases are 6.5% higher than the current rates in all classes except affordable rental. And that was just to protect the classification of people most at risk on our island. In addition, the mayor did talk about increasing the minimum tax from $100 to $200, as well as adjustment to age exemption. So right now, age 70 is the highest additional exemption you get. So adding additional classifications for age 75 and age 80. And then, so in general, for the homeowners, we tried to look at a typical home in each area. We had our real property tax division kind of pull up different areas. And basically, it ends up being $10 to $11 a month additional for a typical homeowner on the west side of the island. So just to help put it in perspective. So, and we'll stop there.
Okay, thank you very much. One thing that Bill wanted to make sure that you know is that on the back of the form you have, the big paper, the agenda, there's a survey, and he'd very much appreciate it if you do fill that out. Now, we have some specific questions, and we'd like to see if we can just get a little understanding. We get that there's a $20 million shortfall, so that there's nothing big that can happen. You can't cut out an entire department. But we do want to ask about little cost savings. And the question is, Mary Kim, at this point, are you open to the cost saving ideas of the people of this island? Is there anything you can do to implement them in this year's budget, or are we all looking at next year's budget if good ideas come up that could be helpful?
Well, I think regardless of time, good ideas are always welcome. I think in regards to this particular budget, as you know, it takes effect July 1st. And right now it is in the hands of the county council to review our proposal and what it is. As I said, it's a proposal to them, and they will use their judgment in regards to what to support or not support, or to cut or modify. And that is a process in regards to what's going to happen now.
We have several questions about taxes. Right now, Hawai'i County gives a tax cut to people who are 60 and over. They get another tax cut when they're 70 and over. You're now proposing to give tax cuts when people reach the age of 75 and when they reach the age of 80, no income qualifications. What's the exact budget impact of these proposed cuts? Or exemptions, I guess they'd be called.
You mean in regards to how much it will take away from the revenues?
Absolutely, the budget impact, yes, sir.
To add the 75 and 80 categories was about $450,000.
Okay, so the question is, why do it?
That's an area where we're seeing more and more seniors having trouble paying their real property taxes across the island. And so some of them are on fixed income. So when they hit 75 and 80, that tends to be the time where some of them struggle a little bit more with making ends meet.
Should there be an income requirement? If I'm making, well, I'll take Dr. Earl Bakken. He lives north part of the East Island. As you all know, he invented the wearable cardiac pacemaker. My guess is at 92, I'm sure he'd appreciate the tax cut, but why not have, if you feel it's so important to give older people a discount or an exemption, why not have some income requirement in there? Because $450,000 is a good chunk of change.
Yes, it is. But also the real property tax system is based on the value of everyone's property. It's not on a person by person basis. So it goes with the property itself. So it's hard to do the income type situations.
But you're basing it on individuals. I won't argue about it, but you're basing it on an individual, it doesn't stay with my property if I leave my property. So $450,000 there. That's one of the ideas. Now, there are currently 35,000 properties on the island that pay the minimum property tax, which has been $100. You're raising it to $200. That's fully 1/4 of the real estate owned on this island. So 25% of the people pay the minimum tax, which means that 75% of the people who own properties here are going to be carrying the burden for them. How is that fair, and should that be changed?
First of all, as Deanna just said, the amount of taxes one pays based on the assessed value of your property. You know, I know on the surface it looks, but please bear in mind, I stated, that we raised the minimum twice in the past 20 years, and, it was this administration that happened to be there. In regards to fairness, it's based on the value of the property. If we go individually, as I gave my in-laws as an example, there are going to be individuals who should pay more if it is based on income. Our whole system is based on the assessed value of the use of your property. In regards to $200 versus $100, I guarantee you that this will probably be one of the first and maybe last discussion on it should be more on the fairness of that. Because when I expect the criticism of some of these rates of increase, it will be, how can you increase it 100% from $100? I think the $200 was, as I told you, I felt the most easiest to implement as far as to justify the fairness of it.
There's a proposal to change property tax homeowner exemptions based on how long somebody has lived on the island. Is that a proposal you're seriously considering? And give us a short summary of what your thinking is, please.
That was actually raised by the county council. And after checking with Corporation Council, they're really not sure that's legal. So we're still in the discussion phases of that. But that was something proposed by the county council.
Okay, so louder.
I think the proposal was that instead of just having an age exemption, you would only get the age exemption based on how long you lived on the island.
And it is a county council proposal, so we don't have really any more detail about that. And the county council will next meet on June 5th, to look at the budget. County Parks and Recreation. Our county golf course is fairly expensive to maintain, but it's also a really valuable asset to the county. And Charmaine, you have said that the cost of the golf course currently is $1.3 million per year. It brings in around $734,000, leaving a $650,000 deficit. The green fees are currently $15 per round for residents and $20 on weekends. That's for residents. Non-residents, $35 and $40. Now, you told me that there's an average of 68,000 rounds a year. I know a couple years ago the average number of rounds was 70,000, so it's in that ballpark. If you were to raise the green fees by $5 per play, that would cut in half the deficit. If you were to raise the green fees by $9, that would wipe out that deficit. So since that is a county asset that has the ability to produce income, why are you not raising the golf fees?
For 6 months. We may consider that.
You said it was not under consideration at this time when I asked you, but you're telling me it is now under consideration?
I've been in this seat 6 months. We'll look at it down the road.
I'd like to
Thank you,
address
Harry.
that, please. Because that is the, in regards to raising fees or where to charge is the administrative type of guidance. I will get away from the golf course a little bit and explain in regards to the philosophy and values of the tax system of Hawaii. Not saying it is right or others are wrong. This is what our bases are. I think some of you may be from the mainland. You know that Hawaii is different in one big sense in regards to user fees. I think most of our parks are free. Your swimming pool, transfer stations, et cetera, et cetera. It was based on decades ago, generations ago, that certain things will be the responsibility of the county government or state government. Skipping the subject a little bit, but I was really happy because the state government at that time said all education should be free, and we went away from that. The university cost me $160 a year to go, believe it or not. Now it's close to $15,000 to $20,000. The user fees of the county on a personal basis is something I support. I love the fact that most of our parks are free. If we hope to make it where user fees will balance our budget or people should pay for it, that's the community which is represented wholly a lot by the council who get that during hearings. This is something that, I think the people have to decide. If you ask me what is my personal, I believe in the system we have now is a good one. Naturally, everything has to be constantly approved and reviewed for fairness. I think some of you are from states where it says that even in education, I was shocked when I went to Oregon school. To go to the swimming pool, I had to pay so many, $1 each time I went in the pool. And I can understand the principle that you use it, you pay for it. That's why they call it user fees. I will say it here and end this discussion for now. But this is something that the council reviews. What people bring up. Should we consider user fees, for Hawaii County because that's something we have to consider. Where do we get our additional funds that we need? Right now, property tax accounts for 72 or 71% or so of a total amount of money that we need. The state government, in their wisdom, have taken away, and I'm not going to, go on in long in regards to the TAT. That was supposed to be as written in 1997 to help all county governments pay for the expenses that they said in writing the counties need help, and they deviated from that. Obviously, that's why we put so much emphasis on it, because as Colin said, we need the public's help. Every mayor included, I think you must have read how much time Mayor Kinoy spent trying to convince on fairness. Every mayor in the island, in the state did that. And obviously it's keep going down. And I'll end this with the user fees. This is something that is serious discussion by people in the council or community meetings. If you want your county government to change their taxing philosophy and principles, then obviously the public will express that.
There's another asset that County Parks has, which is the county zoo, which you mentioned. It gets around 300,000 visitors a year. There's no fee for that. It's a great little zoo. But would you consider charging for adults who visit, assuming that 2/3 of the visitors are children, maybe a third are adults? We get cruise ship visitors going there, a lot of people from out of town. So what's the consideration for charging a small fee for that?
We're not looking at raising fees for any of our facilities, because I feel like putting fees on those kinds of facilities will hurt the most vulnerable in our society. We're proud of the fact that the zoo and the equestrian center are free. And actually, if you charged a fee, we'd have to hire an employee to collect the fees. And so you'd have to collect a substantial amount of money, first of all, to make it worthwhile to collect the fees. And secondly, you would hurt the most vulnerable in our society.
And the most vulnerable would be the cruise ship visitors?
Would be the people that couldn't afford it.
Well, that's, there's ways to actually look at different things. We have several more questions about property taxes. I'm guessing, Deanna, this is going to involve you. First, I don't know if you have any idea how much of our county real estate tax is paid by and within the resorts. And that would include, I'm guessing, from Kauanaiki through Four Seasons, through Mount Alani, Fairmont, Waikoloa, up to Mauna Kea. And we're talking about the resorts and then all the properties inside there.
I think the resort and commercial area in there was about 25 million when we looked at it. I'm not sure that includes all the areas you mentioned, but when they broke it out for us, I think it was about 25 million.
Okay. Since we're on that topic, I do just want to ask a question. Somebody else asked this question, but I just want to confirm something that I've believed, which is inside the resorts, county does not provide roads or sewers or those kind of services. Is that correct? That what county provides inside the resorts is pretty much limited to assistance for their security teams when they need police and 911, right? So we don't do other work inside resorts?
Yeah, it's private property, and, the county funds wouldn't be used to, improve their infrastructure facilities.
It's a weird situation. I mean, they pay a lot, but they don't get the normal county services that everybody else gets in general.
Can I speak to that for a second? The tourists come to the resorts, but they don't stay there all the time. They come out into the county facilities. They're riding on our roads. They're, using our streets. They're crossing our bridges. So, yeah, I would disagree with that characterization.
Okay.
The resorts benefit from, our facilities.
Should they pay more in property taxes than they do?
You're talking about the tourists, or are you talking about the resorts?
No, I'm talking about resort properties, because is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I mean, this has to do with property tax. I mean, if we're getting back to that, I mean, it's a graduated, it's based on the value of that land. Is how, am I correct on that? Yeah, so, they're paying based on, again, the value of their property, just like I am, just like you are.
The question is that some of these resorts are getting more timeshares, and like even Halua Resort is timeshares. Do timeshares pay property taxes based on each individual unit, or what? I assume.
Right now, I think those are in the condominium. Most of them fall into that category, the hotel and resort. One of the proposals for the upcoming budget, the council expressed interest in breaking out vacation rentals. So we're going to be looking at vacation rentals. Timeshares specifically haven't come up. I don't think we have as many as some of the other islands do, but it's definitely something we can look at in the future.
And then the question is there a way to relook the assessments of real property, particularly in West Hawaii? Property assessment is done, and then the decision is made to raise the taxes, but the assessments are really going up, and some people believe that the assessment should be based on the purchase price you paid for the property. What we're getting into now is property values increase on the island, that the assessments are getting higher. So when you speak of people's difficulty in paying taxes, a lot of that has to do with much higher assessments. They may have bought the property for $200,000 and now it's assessed at $900,000. So is there a way to relook how the assessments are done?
That is one of the part of the homeowner's exemption, is that you do get a 3% cap each year. So the assessed value would not go up more than 3% each year if you're in the homeowner category. So that was something put in to actually help with that situation.
How much of this budget is dedicated to fixing or addressing the homeless situation we have, and what specific steps are being taken?
I'll answer that. Right now, there's no amount that I can even relay how much money is being spent on the homeless. I will say this. I think the state stats show that 3 years prior, 16, 15, and 14, an alarming rate of 150% increase of homeless on this island. I think they just really woke up everyone, because that amount, and for whatever reasons, different things, I'm sure that I'm not smart enough to know why there's such a drop, that the last assessment made by the state, again, with the private nonprofits assistance and the county assistance, in regards, showed a 32% drop in the past 5-6 months. And whether it will continue, I hope it will, but I'm not sure why. In regards to what we're doing, I think we are being very successful in having all the parties, in regards that provide services one way or the other, get together, work together, including with the state, to try to develop a comprehensive program to address this homeless, but especially the at-risk people too. At-risk meaning people who are struggling day to day, they may become homeless if something happens to their revenue expenses. And one of the budget increases that we hope to have is to identify one person that will dedicate his time for the coordination of these programs.
Does the county have the capability to add on a rental car road use fee of X dollars, $5, let's say? And if so, why don't we do it? I don't know if the county, can Hawai'i County assess a fee on rental cars that are rented on this island? And if so, should we do that? I don't know that the county has the capability.
I don't think that authority's been given to us by the state legislature yet.
I'd like to elaborate on what Dan just said. There's 17 tax bases for the state of Hawaii. 14 of them totally controlled by the state government. For county, it's property tax, fuel tax, and vehicle weight tax, very limited. The state is almost total control of our tax system in regards to what we can or cannot do.
Does the state of Hawaii pay property taxes to Hawai'i County?
No, they do not. No, the state does not pay. However, the federal government does not pay real property taxes, but they do pay a payment in lieu of taxes. So we do get support from the federal government, but not the state.
So, for example, when you say federal government, so for any federal government facilities, Pohakaloa training
Parks,
area, stuff like that, they pay us something.
They do pay us something, yes.
Well, that's nice. Okay, that's a good little sign. How about grants? I know that we get state and federal grants. Do we know how much we are getting this year, how much we're anticipating getting in the 2017-2018 budget? And while you're looking for that, the philosophical question then becomes, should we have somebody dedicated to writing for other kinds of grants from private institutions that might bring more money into Hawai'i County? But talk about the grants, Deanna, please.
For both last year and this year, it's just over $67 million that's included in the budget. And then as additional grants become known throughout the year, we'll add those on to the budget and go into the council and amend. Each department is kind of doing their own grant writing right now because they kind of know what their needs are. The research and development is really good about helping identify grants to apply for. And so we are trying to coordinate it that way.
Do we ever try to get grants from non-governmental agencies?
There are some that, support, especially like SARE Foundation, that definitely give us a lot of support. I think whenever we are eligible, we do try to apply for private type of grants. Sometimes governments are just not eligible for those type.
Miss, you seem to have a real concern about the state. Your question is, again, commercial use of state property, do they pay property tax? She said no.
Well, these are just state properties. If a state building, I can understand. But if a business is leasing a state property, do they pay taxes?
Yes, if the state is leasing land to,
Not a lease state, but do they pay property tax?
okay, maybe I didn't. Right, so if the state is leasing to a private entity, then yes, they do pay real property taxes.
So how many of those properties are paying property tax?
I do not have that number in front of me, but the state informs us whenever they lease out their land, and then our real property tax guys go and calculate it, and we do bill them, yes.
I think she's answered the question. She's answered the question. Is the impact of the proposed fuel tax increase included in revenues? It's sort of indicated in the budget letter it was not.
Right, it was not, but it usually takes them 6 months or more. So if the fuel tax increase is passed, we'll then work it out with the state, and when they tell us what month they can implement it, we'll go back into council with the budget amendment at that time.
There is no ambulance in Laupohoihoi. What's it going to take to get one?
So the ambulance service is actually provided by the state, and the state hires the county to provide that. So we would probably need an increase in our state funding for the EMS program before that could be provided.
And so how would that mechanism work if the citizens of Laupohoihoi want an ambulance? I know that there was a lot of lobbying to get the Makalei Station ambulance. Mm-hmm. Who do they start with?
Yeah, I would start with the state representatives and senators and getting as much input as they can. I know the fire department is also very active in lobbying. So I think, if a bill got introduced next year, I'm sure a lot of people would be supportive of that.
Mayor Kim, a question for you. You stated that you were not in favor of the employee raises, which clearly the county can't control, but will you veto a budget that includes the county employee raises? Since you were not in favor of them?
Right now, truthfully, I'm going to be hamstrung in regards to If the budget comes forth to me, I will stand pat with what I said I will do. I will not approve any raises. But if one feels that this is going to be law, I think I'm kidding you, because I fully expect it to be overrun,
You fully expect it to be,
overturned.
meaning that if you were to veto the budget, that the county council would go
Well,
ahead?
that's what I personally feel. I can't, guess what. I'm telling you what I personally feel. I just wanted to make a point to the governor. I wanted to make a point to all the mayors that what is happening tax-wise is so unfair to the counties. This isn't just about the raises. I know you didn't want me to spend too much time on the TAT, but that is crucial. The TAT was developed by our legislatures to help the county. Initially, it was 95% of the total revenues would go to the counties. They cut it down until it became their cash cow. And then they got together with county people, state people, and the private sector, what is fair. This is state legislatures. They came up with a 45% distribution to the counties, of which Hawai'i County, we got just short of 19% of that. If that alone was carried, forget the 95%, if that alone was carried, I wouldn't have to raise your taxes $1. I would have approximately $35 to $40 million extra for my revenues. I was just short 20. This is why that's so important that we bring this forth to the public. This is not fair to you, the taxpayers. Look at Kauai. Right now, over 80% of their revenues come from one source, the property tax. Look at Hawai'i County. Over 70% comes from property taxes. What are our choices? I think Deanna and Colin went over by some examples of so many of the increase on our budget is something totally out of our control. I have to bring these things up to you.
Mayor Kim, that really brings up the larger question, which is, has county government grown to the point where it's too big for the citizens to afford? And is there an effort that you plan to launch to essentially completely relook at county government? Because it feels like we can't continue this way. Between 2000 and 2008, the budget increased $228 million. Between 2008 and 2016, it increased another $60 million. And now it looks like we're on a path for continued increases that are going to take us beyond the capability of those of us who pay property taxes to manage.
I don't believe, I know this sounds very egotistical, but I firmly, embrace our county government. The department's head went in part to tell how your money is being spent. I believe that the user fee for everything is not a good thing, but that's my personal. I support that. I support the exemptions for the seniors. I support the agricultural tax breaks. I think those are good philosophy of our government in regards to how we spend your money. In regards to those things of what you feel, I don't know. I do know if the community feels that your county government is too big and not affordable, then you will make your viewpoint known to the county council and to the administration, but primarily the county council, who are the legislative body. They establish the rules and we follow to a great degree in regards to what we do. But to end that on your county government, I'm proud of our county government. I'm proud of the non-user fees in regards to what we do with your money. In regards to those things, we were talking about the MICT program. This is, I just met with some people from Washington today in regards to physician's assistant program to be brought here. Where else in the United States do you think we have this kind of response? I remember I was a kid, not that much of a kid, because in the 20s when we had a television program called Emergency. When I went to the mailing, I wrote a paper on how proud I was of the county government accepted that MICTs and EMTs of your fire department will be island-wide to provide emergency health care to everyone in this island as best as possible. I really love that. We will be a rural community for a long time. They will depend on the fire department, MIC, EMT programs. We are a population of 200,000 people spread out on 4,028 square miles. Look at Maui, how easy it is that they have 300 and something police officers compared to our 400 and something, and all they have is 700 teeny-weeny square miles. Chief of Police and I joke about Oahu. My goodness, they had a meeting and they said their ideal response goal time for every call was less than 4 minutes. The chief and I just laughed. How long do you think it takes to go from the Captain Cook Station to Miloli? Or Hawaiian Ocean via states from Pahala? I do not think your county government is too big. I know it is our responsibility to always guard your money, and I am proud of the budget we presented. It's the best. The council will review it to improve it. You will have the opportunity in public hearings to make your viewpoint known. And if the day comes that the community says the county government should have all user fees, etc., obviously we're obligated to follow.
The Philippine Consulate provides consular services on this island for citizens of the Philippines. The effort is managed by the County Research and Development Department, and we understand gets no reimbursement from the Philippine government for managing their consular services. Should we be asking foreign governments or anybody for whom we provide services to reimburse us for the cost of providing those services?
What services are we providing?
Not just the space.
The Philippine government comes here and you can get your passport, your Philippine government things.
Diane, is it
You
mostly
issue
space?
press releases about it.
Sitting in the back here is Diane Lay. She's a Research and Development Director. Diane, can you address that?
So the question is, should we be asking the Philippine government and any other government for whom we perform services to reimburse us for the cost of those services?
I suppose that's an opportunity. What the county currently provides is, the county currently provides one full-time person to provide outreach services and answer questions about customs and immigration. We don't do any regulatory or anything, so it's just a service, as simple as that. And I'll just say that, we work with the federal government on that. We have asked if they have any reimbursement program available, and the answer was no.
So the Philippine government says they don't have the ability to reimburse the County of Hawaii for providing services for their citizens?
I have not reached out to the Philippine government to ask that question, but I have reached out to the federal government, Customs and Immigration Services, and they said no. So our U.S. government does not have a program to reimburse.
Do we do it on behalf of the U.S. government, or do we do it on behalf of the government of the Philippines?
We work in support of the government well, what we do is we provide services to folks that are on immigration status, or whether they are green card holders or passport. So it's just a service. It's one employee, and we could explore asking the Philippine government or any of the other governments that we provide services to. It's an outreach service. The Philippine Consulate does not have an office on this island, so we are assisting folks that work here, who live here, who are maybe married to a U.S. citizen.
So Mayor Kim, is this something that you would be willing to explore, getting a foreign government to reimburse the county for the one full-time employee? Since I know you want to add people in this budget, maybe there's one way you can add one person.
That one person provides services, same type of services to all immigrants, foreign. It's not one for the Filipinos. I do not believe at this time I would even remotely consider asking the foreign government of that person receiving the help to fee-for-service element. I repeat, it's one person. That position, immigration specialist, was created back in the 70s because of the number of immigrants and heritage of Hawaii. And, we have immigrants, as you know, Marshallese. It is a widespread service that I feel very good about, that we have a person that will help people in regards to the type of programs we have, the type of services they can get help from, passport type of problems, et cetera, et cetera. And no, at this time, I would not even consider a fee-for-service on those services.
Thank you, Mayor. Question that probably goes to Deanna or Collins, but it's about the fund known as GASB, which is the fund that we put money into for future retiree pensions and benefits, if I understand it correctly. What's the amount being put in for this next coming year? I believe it's 39 million, maybe?
There's two components, the pay-as-we-go and then the additional funding based on the actuarial study. And I think it's 14 million for the actuarial portion, and then part of the healthcare is for retirees and part of it is for actives. So yeah, it is a significant portion. Unfortunately, in the past, we could decide whether we wanted to fund it or not. But since then, the state legislature has passed a law saying that we will fund it. And if we don't pay it, they will keep our TAT money instead. So we kind of don't have a choice on paying that anymore.
Okay, just checking.
The fact that the County of Hawaii has been proactively paying this, and this is in the past, we proactively paid this. It actually, as strange as it might seem, allows us to get a higher bond rating.
Oh, no, that's a good thing. And the questioner was really asking if we had the ability to defer a little bit. And that's what Deanna answered. No, having a high bond rating is really good. How many vacant, unfunded positions exist in the county? And what's the money impact of that?
I don't have the exact number with me, but there are some. And if you talk like non-public safety positions, it's probably between $1 and $2 million.
Is that something that could be eliminated? I know that the previous mayor did eliminate vacant, unfunded positions. Is that a way to save a little money at this point, make a dent in the 20 million we're short?
We kind of looked at each department independently. Some of the positions that got unfunded previously, the funding was never restored. And so we kind of looked at them kind of position by position. Like we had some in our vehicle registration and licensing division, and we get a lot of complaints about the long lines now, especially in Kona. So, we felt that would not be prudent to unfund those particular positions.
Can they be unfunded until they're actually filled? Is that one way to save money?
Yeah, and there are some positions in the budget that are currently funded for like a half year or something like that, depending on when the department thought they would be able to get the list and fill the position.
We understand there are good reasons to hire people on temporary contracts for the county, and one of the good reasons that I can think of is then they're not permanent employees. But there was a lot of publicity about the fact that at least one employee was hired at $16,000 per month, which equates to $192,000 per year. So the question is that a good use of county money to hire somebody at that kind of pay, $16,000 per month?
I think we're referring to a particular individual named Andy Levin. One of the greatest problems in regards to every administrator is to keep up with over a couple of thousand bills that the legislature's introduced, and some pass and some fail. When you come in, and the time we come in December, and every year that has to be addressed, but it gives you a year's time to make assignments. I knew I needed someone to monitor I need somebody who had experience. I know I needed someone to keep track for departments, all the bills that affect Hawai'i County. I'll give you examples of horrendous things that our state legislature did that hurts us. You know, for example, number one, in regards to a bill that was repealed, Act 55, that took away all county responsibilities of ordinances of land use, of building permits, et cetera, et cetera.
This year?
No, Act 55 that was repealed 2 years ago. I identified the position I needed. I called human resource. I do not get involved in regards to what people get paid. I called human resources. I need for you to draw this contract up for me. They established a responsibility, and if you ask them, I was the one that questioned one of the benefits of cost to cut it. It was of ground transportation. I have no reason to pay this man ground transportation. I said this to the council when they asked me the same question on the pay. That was an 89-day contract. His contract is terminated. There was no desire to continue him. I wanted him for the period of the legislature. The Human Resource Department defined the contract. The Human Resource Department defined the pay status, what they consider based on fairness and this responsibility. Why this is continuing to become an issue, I don't know. I've stated this before. It's a 3-month contract, meaning 89 days. It ended just shortly before the legislature ended, and that was the plan. In regards to the money, I knew money was short, so what did I do? I needed 2 people to hire in special contract. One was to help revise the civil defense emergency plans. So I did not hire the full-time person that I was entitled to as one of the 4 people as far as administrative assistants. That amount of money equates to near exactly what I paid those 2 people, because those 2 people were only on 89-day contract. I know my responsibilities of budgeting. I know my responsibilities in regards to who is responsible for establishing contract and establishing a pay. Go check with human resource who did that, not me. If there's any indication I paid them too much, then I'll carry that message to human resource again. Next time you draw up a contract, maybe you shouldn't pay this much. But if you look at his responsibilities and what he did for the county, he was well worth that money in protecting the people of this island.
In the past, there were companies dumping trash at Pu'uanahulu landfill that were in arrears on their payments. What's the status of that? Are we owed money from those companies?
I'm sure we're still owed money from those companies. However, the Department of Environmental Management has been taking much more aggressive action, and if you're more than 90 days in arrears, I believe you get a letter where you can no longer haul trash. You have to stop hauling until you get current.
Okay, that's a good thing. Mr. DeMarco, you mentioned several road maintenance projects. One is Henry Street between Palani Road and Queen Ka'aumanu Highway. And one of the questioners asked about that specifically because it's filled with potholes. What's the time frame on that? Do you remember?
Outdoor voice.
Yes, outdoor voice. So potholes. Yeah. So you're thinking as a capital improvement project or just regular maintenance? If it's regular maintenance, these are complaint driven typically. So you'll notify the Highway Division or Department of Public Works, and we'll send the crews out to repair them. So the timing for repair is as soon as we know about it. I mean, they're out there repairing these roads actively on a daily basis all over the island.
I specifically mentioned Henry Street between Palani Road and Queen Ka'aumanu Highway. So I was guessing maybe it was a capital improvement project, but no, that's just a maintenance project. So I guess somebody wants to know when we're going to get it done.
Oh, okay, Henry Street, all right.
Sooner than later. Big holes.
Let me take a look here.
However, as you're looking at that, it's possible that some of those potholes are created by trucks doing construction on properties that are above Anakeohokololi Highway. So do we ever ask the developers of those projects to help us out by filling in roads that they have perhaps damaged?
But
Even though it can't be fully pinned on them?
Well, I guess the answer to that would be no. I mean, typically with these subdivision projects where you have heavy equipment operating on a large piece of land for grading, I mean, they're supposed to, at the exit point of that property, put down gravel so they drop their sediment, these types of things. If you got concrete trucks, they have to clear their trucks. There's usually a line pit that they set up. But as far as that heavy equipment coming out onto the road, well, it's much like how they came in the first place. But, you know, I guess the answer as it relates to the roads themselves and any damage that they cause, yeah, would be our highways folks that would be out there repairing that.
Okay, so if somebody is concerned about potholes there, we should be calling you and telling you to do it sooner than later. Although you did mention it, so why did you mention it?
As far, okay.
Or like when?
Yeah, let me look that up here.
Okay. I think so.
This was Henry Street, right?
Henry Street between Palani Road and Queen Kaumano Highway.
Okay, yeah, as far as that particular project, what I have here is notice of proceed means as to be announced, so we haven't scheduled that yet.
Okay. A second road that's being asked about is Kuakini Highway between downtown and Laco Street. You did not mention that I recall, but that would be, again, just a sort of a repaving, filling holes in.
Kuakini Highway Improvements Phase 2, let's see. Yeah.
It sounds like what people need to do is just call you guys and tell you to please do it.
Well, I'm not seeing it here, so yes, please do.
Okay, I just do want to mention praise for Ron Thiel. Anytime I've called about a traffic light that doesn't work the way I think it should, gets fixed. And ditto for roads, I have called on potholes and your guys get out there relatively quickly.
Yes.
However, as one questioner points out, first of all, this person says, and I've noticed it myself, some of the potholes I've personally seen being filled, they don't seem to last very long, like just a couple months. So this person asked, have you thought of checking the sulfur content on the lava rock you use to fill potholes with and find a way to neutralize it? This person's a doctor and she tells you how to do it. But is this an issue where you're finding that the road paving is not working as well because of the materials we're using and you need to work on the lava rock that you use to pave?
Yeah, I mean, the paving material obviously comes from, you know, the asphalt vendor. As far as their product, we don't do a quality control check. We just go down and buy the material. Now, whether it contains, let's see.
You can think about that. It's just a suggestion.
we'll
The
have to
lady's
look.
right there in the front row, turquoise skirt. You can talk to her after. She can tell you how to,
Engineering degree, you said? No, medical, that's
medical
sorry.
doctor, but you can talk about that afterwards with her.
Right. Oh, right. Well, the materials that are used to create asphalt are screened and washed. So, you know, that
Carol, why don't you guys talk about this after? Because the rest of us aren't going to be out there repairing the roads.
look forward to that conversation.
Charmaine, a quick question about Old Airport tennis courts. You mentioned that you're working on them. The United States Tennis Association has $100,000 in escrow, I believe, for the county to use based on the county proceeding with revamping the tennis courts. What's the status of that? Because nobody wants to lose $100,000.
Okay, first of all,
Outdoor voice.
let me use my outdoor voice. The technical specs were completed and sent to Public Works on 5/25. Is today 5/25? Okay, we're sent to Public Works today. Tag. And
What have you done?
wait, hold on. No, he's not there. And Public Works will advertise for construction bids. We have, let's see,
So basically, we're good to go, that we're not losing the money from the USTA.
well, we're working on that. There's something about the USTA too. We asked our finance guys before we left, and we're trying to find that. But the project is go. The $100,000 from USTA, hold on, there's a piece of paper. We anticipated this question. It's just that we have so many papers.
Well, while you're looking, let me ask a question that Deanna may know the answer to, which is, the county had a bond approval to completely redo Old Airport Park. Clearly, the state has shut us down on doing much of that work. I don't know if you've actually gotten the money and if it can be reapplied to other projects, or if it's still a bond to be issued. So address that.
That one
Please.
is still a bond to be issued, but it was specific in the bond ordinance to Old Kona Airport. So we haven't looked at how to redistribute that money, but we will, and we'll work with the local council members on that.
Thank you very much. Did you want to add anything, Charmaine? That's not a
Hold on, we're
key
finding
question, and I know Bill Bugby is eager to get up here, wherever he is. You keep moving around. Somebody else sitting there before. So Bill Bugby is eager to come up and conclude our session tonight. Go.
Our finance office says we'll be submitting for council action for an appropriation for Kailua Tennis Court improvements once the CIP ordinance becomes established sometime in June. If the grant funding has a deadline of July, it seems unlikely that we'll be able to secure those funds. So we're worried that the USTA has a deadline of July.
So can we act more quickly to not lose $100,000?
We have just put it out for bid. That's where we are right now.
Okay.
It's in Frank's court.
Okay, we'll be talking to Frank. We did get a question about how the general public can assist with transient accommodation tax issues, and I assume you mean getting the state legislature to do what they should. And Mayor Kim, you can make a comment on this, but my comment is, if we don't have state legislators from Hawaii Island who support Hawaii keeping its fair share of the transient accommodation tax, I don't think there's much we can do. And it's quite sad to me that at least 3 of the state legislators from this island were not as supportive of Hawai'i County keeping our fair share of the TAT. And there you go. We should be asking our state legislators why they would even consider giving up money that really is owed to Hawai'i County or any of the other counties. Mayor Kim?
Well, you said it all.
Is there anything specific that we can do? As the general public, if we got together, organized one voice, is that what it takes? I mean, what is it that we have to do a kahea to the general public and say, you must stand up for this?
It's our responsibility as citizens to let our state legislators know that they need to fight for Hawai'i County. And if they do, that's great. If they don't, what we get is what we just got. So that's my opinion.
I want to say that the 4 mayors, have agreed the importance of this, and this allocation for this year got tied up with the rapid transit system. So at this point in the budgeting process, we still don't know what our share will be. We hope that they will resolve this shortly. But right now we don't know if they're going to call a special session or what. But the legislative session ended with that hanging, and so with the transit system, I cannot imagine what they feel about that. I mean, that's a $7-8 billion project that's kind of dead end with no completion in sight yet.
Hey, thank you so much for being with us tonight at the West Hawaii forum's budget forum. Bill Bugbee is the forum organizer, and he'd like to say aloha. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you all for coming this evening, and I want to thank our presenters here as well. It's for your long drive over here to Kona. Thank you for that, Mayor, and your cabinet. I wanted to just say a couple of things. One is we've had some audio issues with the county audio system, which we cannot touch to adjust volume. So we're going to, in the future forums, bring our own. We have everything's mic'd up for our recording. We're going to bring our own speakers in here, and we're going to make sure that you all hear exactly what's going on, because I know it's frustrating. We've had a couple in a row this way. And so I promise you, June, we're going to fix it. So thank you again for your patience. Thank you for coming this evening. And the surveys, of course, just leave them on the table on the right. Jamie over here, we'll take them on the way out. Thank you so much. This is the representation of the kind of quality of speakers that we have here at West Hawaii Forum. And we put these monthly forums on to provide as much civic involvement and education on issues that are important to you, the community. We are one island, we are one community,